I'll tell you what. Turn down that music, Boy Green. I got to talk.
Okay.
No, you don't have to turn it off.
Well, it's just weird. You just started talking in the middle of the beginning.
Fade it out now. Put it back on and fade it out. Let's have a proper introduction to
the show.
You
talked over it, Lerch. You're a radio professional, for Pete's sake. What are you doing, man?
Get in. Now I know why. There we go. Come on, a professional radio.
You talked in the middle of the intro, professional.
I know, but I was, I had to jump the shark there. I was just feeling it, man. I just needed to get, because the words of the song, right? Billy Joel's, Just a Fantasy, is, it's just a fantasy. It's not the real thing. But this week, it's the real thing for me, because I'm playing this guy in fantasy in our Champs League,
okay.
And he's going down, brother. You're going down. I am Hulk Hogan, and you are going down, brother. I am taking you through the planet, through the earth. How are you, Joe? We're in a battle this week. We had some players going last week. You got bailed out by a 56-yard field goal. Yeah. Ooh, I hated that.
I got bailed out by a 56-yard field goal?
Yeah, McManus kicked a long field goal.
I think the Packers kind of just thrashed the Commanders, you as a Giants fan should feel better about that, because your pathetic team in Week 1 didn't look as pathetic after they got trounced in Week 2 against my Packers. So I think we were doing you a favor, sir. I don't know about the bailing out of a 56-yard kick.
Well, this was looking like you weren't going to have a good night, and then bang, you get one of those 56 yards.
We were up by 2 scores at that point.
Boom. I know, but just run it, man. Run the clock. What do you got to kick field goals? Be like Sean Payton, man. He just says, we don't need to kick field goals, baby. We got the lead. We're up 8. This team can't score in our D. Let's have a little faith in the D. That's what I think they should have done last night. No, it's going to be a fun matchup. I did have one of your boys, Josh Jacobs, last night. Another solid performance, 2 weeks in a row from Jacobs, who's just a touchdown scoring machine. So thank you for another touchdown there, Mr. Jacobs. We've got a long way to go in our matchup. That is for sure. But it's always fun to play you, Joe, and always fun to see what your players are up to. So looking forward to a good week, and I'm hoping to be talking about a victory next week, because otherwise I'll be.
I'm just happy that we're both 1-0. Actually, everyone on this call is 1-0, and we're in a much better spot than the other half of the league, where we're not going to be at risk of falling out of this. Like, again, winning the whole thing is great. The glory of the championship. We know Boy Green will never do that again. That's fine, because I'm in the league. But like, it's fun that we get to be in this spot. However, the best feeling is that I'm not nearly close to the bottom of the league, and that's what I'm looking forward to.
Okay, very good. It's always good to get off to a good start. I agree 100%. By the way, how's Drake London doing this week? And I was hoping, since I lost Xavier Worthy, maybe the gods would fall in my favor a little bit, and you lose Drake for a week, and we have a nice kind of even-Steven matchup. Now I'm at a deficit, because it does look like London's going to play, right?
Yeah, I would assume London will play. I think that's one of the bigger ones, along with Brock Bowers, and Brock Bowers being a Monday night game as well, too. It's a little bit more tricky to say what his stats will be as of this recording Friday. But yeah, I think Drake London's going to be good to go, and the 15 targets last week is an indication that what we all assumed, and really that back into the first-round tier, Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas Jr., Drake London was in that mix. I think I had been drafting towards the end of draft season Drake London ahead of all those guys, and it looked a little bit weird at the time, even a guy over like St. Brown, for example, who's in that mix, and I was doing so with the assumption there would be volume, and also that the Falcons would have a passing attack that I wanted to be comfortable with moving forward week to week. Not just that I liked St. Brown less or Brian Thomas less, but that I knew Drake London would be involved in that offense. And at least one weekend that will be the case. We'll have to see again Monday night with that one as well, too. No, I guess I was thinking about a different one, but that will be an interesting contest for the Falcons this week as well.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, matchups are hot and heavy. Boy Green, let's go to some questions right out of the box, because we got a lot of people jumping into comments, dropping things. Unless you got something. You got something?
Yeah, just real quick, because we're coming off this. Yeah.
He's starving, this guy. He hasn't had breakfast yet.
That's true. That did not happen. But Thursday Night Football, we hate seeing injuries. And I'm not some prophet. I just knew as soon as it happened, because unfortunately too many Jet players have suffered this injury, where Austin Eckler, it looks like a torn Achilles. And it's always the same sort of calling card there, is that like a player's going to, start running, and then they feel like they got their leg stepped on, so they turn around and no one's there. That's normally a telltale sign that Achilles gave out. It seems like that's the indication. The Washington backfield was always interesting, because, everyone's your mama's favorite Washington Commanders running back was a 3-named Commanders player. Insert your 3-named Commanders player, and everyone was all over him. But then there's the presence of Eckler, and then the Brian Robinson Jr. thing was super weird right before he ends up jumping on the 49ers. So with Eckler likely out for the year, what does that mean for this Washington Commanders backfield?
Yeah, Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt is the three named back that you're referring to, Paul. And I don't want to do the Bill thing. It's fun to have that nickname, and it gets brought too much time up in the broadcast itself. I say that because I think it discredits JCM, like Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, as a talent in the league. And I kind of thought he would have a pretty good game on Thursday. If there is a way to combat an extremely aggressive edge rush and a presence of Micah Parsons and company, my thought would be the read option. I mean, that this is as layman it gets with football knowledge. That would be my way to go ahead and do that. We saw that in the first quarter that they had this read option. Jaden Daniels just missed it. Lucas Van Ness collapses inside, makes a 4-yard tackle for a loss. And I thought, okay, well, they're going to go back to that. That's going to be peppered in throughout the game. Past decade, I've watched Packer defenses. They have always struggled, dating back to Colin Kaepernick, even Michael Vick, even before then, at stopping mobile quarterbacks. That never happened this game. And I don't know if that was a Cliff Kingsbury thing or if that is just the Packers defense acknowledging as one of the best in the league. And it just feels like an uncomfortable thing for me to assume after 2 weeks. So I wonder if there is either a lack of confidence, not in Jaden Daniels, because Daniels did a lot of great things last year for Cliff Kingsbury, but more importantly in that backfield. And will that get exasperated now with Austin Eckler out for the season? You'll have Chris Rodriguez theoretically now on the active roster. I had been on record with egg in my face throughout this whole thing that I thought Rodriguez was a better player than Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. Well, as a healthy and active the past 2 weeks, I couldn't have been any more wrong with that. But I do wonder if having that person in the backfield doing more of those read option functions will make the Commanders' offense as a whole better. I don't know. And I would imagine I'll default to the smarter NFL minds who have actively chose not to go that route through the first 2 weeks of the season. But interesting to watch what happens with Chris Rodriguez, Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, and I think from a full point PPR perspective, Jerry McNichols, who will be the obvious pass catching back of that group, and that is a function and why they had Austin Eckler last year that they want to have too. So McNichols is in his own is an injury risk as well. But I think there's a possibility that all three Commanders backs should be rostered depending on the certain formats.
All right, Lerch, so let's do it. Let's go to some of those fan questions. Again, this is what Joe Bartel provides on a weekly basis. He's a fantasy football expert for RotoWire.com, so make sure you guys submit your questions on a week-to-week basis here. We normally try to set up the link early so you guys can go immediately to the Joe Bartel interview and drop those questions in. That's exactly what Badshaw did here, Lerch.
All right, so he says it says Goddard, Dallas Goddard might be questionable this week. Should he start Pat Freiermuth, or is Dallas good to roll with? I know you're not a doctor, so.
Yeah, Goddard didn't practice Wednesday or Thursday. That's never good, but sometimes for the case of like these veterans and a guy like the Eagles have known throughout Goddard's entire career, if you put together a limited participation on Friday's practice, or an LP as a layman term, you could theoretically go, and I think we'll have to see what happens Friday. Obviously, that being an important game, Chiefs-Eagles, slightly less important for the Eagles, given they are 1-0 in the season and heading to hostile territory as well in a Super Bowl rematch. I would just push back that I almost wonder if there are better options even if Goddard is healthy. And I only make that argument because the waiver wire this week was loaded with tight ends. Arguably last year, the hot waiver wire pickup from week 1 was Isaiah Likely, which ended up falling flat on its face for the most part. We have had other years where there's been a massive talent level like Puka Nacua or Kyron Williams in past years have been guys that you got off of waivers. I think this year is much more closer to that Puka Nacua side of things because of Harold Fannin, the rookie tight end for the Browns, because of Juwan Johnson, who got 12 targets, because of Brenton Strange, who I thought for Jacksonville was very active in that passing game, even during the monsoon that occurred at various points of that contest. There's probably 3 or 4 guys on the waiver wire list that I would rather play over Dallas Goedert, especially given the injury risk that he might be carrying if he does not play at all. So, even Jonnu Smith, the other tight end over Pat Freiermuth. I'm assuming that this isn't a deep league. Maybe I shouldn't assume that. But I think there are probably like 5 or 6 other options I'd rather have over Freiermuth if Goddard cannot play.
So check your free agency, Badshaw. Check your free agency and see what's out there. All right, Bill, the produce guy, up next on YouTube here, Lerch.
All right, he says, hey, Joe, Murray or Herbert to start? Got to start. Wait a minute. Hurry or Herbert, and then I got to start 2, sit 1. And I guess he's talking about Walker, Jones Sr. from Minnesota, or J.K. Dobbins, running backs.
Yeah, so let's start with the quarterback part of things. It's really interesting. Kyler Murray theoretically should be in a prime spot against this Panthers defense to be able to have a lot of fantasy points. And I would argue Kyler Murray is probably a top 10 play. I mean, and that's with the mobility part of things that Kyler Murray does. And I think the Panthers defense, again, not being very good this season, Kyler Murray probably is up there. But I don't know how you bench Justin Herbert after what we saw last Friday in Brazil. And that's the part that I have issue with, is because entering the season, Herbert was outside the top 17 quarterbacks and yet goes for 350 and 3 touchdowns as that game-sealing rushing first down. He played the best quarterback play that I have seen sometime outside of the Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen tier. He was excellent. Excellent. And in that situation, even if Greg Roman does not choose to pass the ball 65% of times compared to 35% run like they did on Friday, I don't know how you deviate away from a guy that looked like that looked that good from a football perspective. So I'm playing Justin Herbert, and maybe it's a vibes thing, which I know that maybe Jim's fine with that as well too. It's a vibe part of thing with
touchy-feely guy
with Herbert. But
that's what you do sometimes.
I don't know how you watch what happened last Friday in Brazil and say that guy can't be my starting lineup moving forward. So I will play Herbert over Kyler Murray as opposed to the starting 3 here and pick one. I was pretty active in the champs that I do not want Kenneth Walker on my team.
Just to clarify real quick, Joe, this is going to be start 2, sit 1 of the 3.
Start 2, thank you.
Yeah, okay. Kenneth Walker, the 3rd, Seattle running back, Aaron Jones Sr., Vikings running back, and J.K. Dobbins, Broncos running back.
Thank you. That has changed things for me a little bit. Yeah, I would bench Kenneth Walker of that group. I am not convinced at all that he is going to be the sort of running back that's getting a lot of volume out there. Maybe I'm entirely wrong about this, but what I watched against San Francisco week 1 was a guy that was splitting the backfield almost entirely with Zach Charbonnet for an offense that wasn't very good. Now, if Kenneth Walker is the pass catcher, that adds a bit more utility in full-point PPR leagues, but I would rather play Aaron Jones. I think J.K. Dobbins, theoretically, against a easier, again, matchup against this Colts defense, I just don't want anything to do with Kenneth Walker.
It's funny, going into the game last night, Joe, I have one of my teams in one of our lower leagues, not the Champs League. I have both Deebo Samuel and Terry McLaurin. And I was talking to Boy Green about this off air before we joined you here. I was flipping all day. I was like, which guy do I play them both? I hate playing 2 guys on a Thursday night. I'm not a big fan of Thursday night football. They tend to be, in my opinion, lower scoring games. It's not as sharp. You don't get those big performances sometimes, although anybody that had, Tucker Kraft got a really big one. So you can get one guy popped like crazy. And I ended up landing on Deebo. And the only reason I landed on Deebo, which ended up being a good choice, he got that sneaky touchdown, was just simply because let me play the hot hand. He played better the week before. McLaurin's still adjusting. I'm going with Deebo. Like, McLaurin's on my bench this week, and that's it. I made that decision. I stuck with it and ended up playing upright. So I think there's something to be said about going with the hot hand if you can do that. All right, let's jump to some other questions here. We've got Jamie, the FedEx guy, jumping in here, and he says he talks about his trade, but we got to explain what his trade is.
Yeah, we do have the trade ETN, actually.
Even before the Bigsby trade. Go ahead.
Yeah. Let's just address the elephant or the much smaller animal in the room. Is the Tank Bigsby trade anything fantasy relevant at all?
Yes, because LeQuint Allen, who Liam Cohn and company in Jacksonville had talked up as much as I feel like I heard anybody throughout the offseason, now elevates into a role that I don't think is necessarily competing with Bashal Tutin, the higher draft of the rookie running backs and the one that conventionally people thought would start over ETN. But if you're saying who is going to replace the Tank Bigsby faction or whatever that role is in this offense, it isn't Bashal Tutin. I think Bashal Tutin is more of the replacement for Travis Etienne. So I actually think LeQuint Allen, not in our 12-team leagues or even like the other subsidiaries down below, but like in deeper formats, LeQuint Allen probably should be picked up.
Okay, there you go. By the way, for those who missed it, Tank Bigsby, who is a depth running back with Jacksonville, was traded to the Philadelphia Eagles. So this trade we're about to put on the screen happened before that, if that would have factored in. No, Lerch, it looks like you want to say something. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to say, what's with the shade on ETN? I mean, I didn't go for him in any draft, so I don't have him. But I felt like there was a lot of shade thrown at him. He goes out and he balls in week 1, and he looks like he's clearly the starter. So were we wrong, or are we going to be wrong about Travis Etienne? I know they have other good young backs, but he looked fine.
Oh, yeah. I think people were absolutely having this misconstrued, either because they were burned by Travis Etienne in years past due to injury issues, or just outright that they were in love or enamored with the rookie running backs. And in the case of Bashal Tutin, like, well, he's the fastest of those rookie running backs, so therefore he's good. And it's the dynasty dumb brain process that happens all the time with this, that, oh, here's a higher drafted rookie running back. Well, therefore, this new regime definitely likes him over Travis Etienne. And in reality, you just have to watch them play in the field and be like, oh, yeah, this guy's consequentially better. It's why he was a late first-round selection, and not just because Urban Meyer is one of the stupidest player or coaches that we'll see in recent memory. It's because Etienne's just really good. So I am of the belief that And I have a lot of ETN everywhere, so I guess I'm looking smarter in hindsight. But that never felt like a serious conversation to me. The only issue that you would have maybe had with ETN entering the year was that there was injury risk for him, and rightfully so. But a guy like Tank Bigsby, I thought would only just complement Travis Etienne and not be the main ball carrier, and certainly not guys like Bashal Tutin or LaQuint Allen. Unless Etienne gets injured, I think it's going to be his back for the rest of the way.
Yeah, I think it is too. Today's broadcast with Joe brought to you by our friends at Bayberry Automotive, integrity and everything. Let's just take 30 seconds, learn a little bit more about our friends from Bayberry.
Integrity is a word that some people just throw around in life. But at Bayberry Automotive, integrity is everything. Integrity of their mechanics, who are all experienced and certified. Integrity in the work they perform, with nothing but 5-star reviews from satisfied customers on Google. Integrity that goes along with family, a family-run business that treats you like one of their own. Integrity in everything. Bayberry Automotive. BayberryAutomotive.com.
Located on Route 57 across from Bayberry Plaza, the premier choice for auto repair in Liverpool.
And they even do some welding over there, Boy Green. I don't know if you caught it.
I saw that. That was a great shot by you and the crew on getting that camera shot of the action. That was very nice.
Fantastic auto repair shop. Go see our friends at Bayberry today. All right, Boy Green, why don't you jump in, throw some comments up if you want, or you got a question for yourself?
Well, first,
I know you always have at least 5 or 6 about your teams.
That is true. But no, I want to finish off the Jamie question that you brought up. So this trade we're going to bring up here happened prior to the Tank Bigsby thing, if that would have affected your opinion of this at all. So this is here in the Champs League. So here's what happened. The 3 that Jamie traded away were Isaiah Pacheco, the Kansas City Chiefs running back, Javonte Williams, the Dallas Cowboys running back, and Hollywood Brown, Kansas City Chiefs wide receiver, in exchange for Philadelphia Eagles wide receiver Devontae Smith and Jacksonville Jaguars running back Travis Etienne.
Yeah, when I saw this trade, and again for the listeners who are following along, this was before I think any of the games had actually happened, or maybe it was just before the Thursday game had just went on. Jamie had been peddling 3 players for 2 to literally every person in the league and sending off all deals the entire time.
This is true.
As he mostly does, which is his right to go ahead and do. When I saw this trade, I was like, this is relatively balanced. Again, it was before Etienne ends up erupting in week 1. I like Etienne a lot. I also liked Isaiah Pacheco a lot entering the season. There was a point come Saturday where it was very clear Hollywood Brown was going to be one of the top waiver wire pickups week 1. And it's almost like in hindsight in both scenarios with the Hollywood Brown part of things, and again, Travis Etienne, both sides end up kind of being balanced in this sort of deal. And I think that it hinges on if Javonte Williams is closer to a running back 20 in fantasy as opposed to like a running back 30, where he was certainly being drafted. Of course, week 1 plunges in for 1-yard touchdowns. That makes good in the fantasy value. But if there's an opportunity for him rushing yard volume and also passing, like receiving yard volume, then Javonte Williams is closer to like a cut candidate in the format that we play in, and that would be a little bit more tricky. But I think this was a relatively even trade that I felt like it was shuffling the chairs in the Titanic, and ended up looking actually pretty consequential for both sides of things after week 1.
There you go. A trade coming in there. Let's keep the questions flowing here from other great people. And guys, thank you so much for sending all these in. This is really neat. Appreciate it. Let's go to Kyle Siebert. Rate this trade. George Pickens, Troy Franklin's for AJ. I guess it was a pre-draft trade, perhaps. A 3rd for AJ Brown and a 6th.
Yeah, I was wondering that too. I think I saw that earlier, and I thought, okay, 3rd and 6th, you would think conventionally when this is written out, a 3rd and 6th is like draft picks during either a redraft or keeper. It's possible in deeper dynasty leagues that there are 6th round selections. I actually played one where we go 7 rounds, and
wow.
It is as dumb as it sounds because there really isn't a whole lot there. So I'm answering this without the draft capital part of things because it's just a little bit trickier to go ahead and do. George Pickens and Troy Franklin for AJ Brown in a single season, like I want to go ahead and win this year sort of thing, is a completely great move. I would much rather have AJ Brown, despite what happened week 1 against the Cowboys. I think he will be more involved as the season progresses, and I would rather be buying low on AJ Brown than trying to sell him at this point. So I think if we're understanding things from a dynasty perspective, that's a totally fine trade, I think, from the AJ Brown side of things.
Right. Another question here. I don't know why this is appearing on a fantasy show, but my future and father-in-law, Thomas Bellevue, says, why haven't the Jets won anything since 1969? Maybe you people need another team. How did this get through the call screen? Where's our producer? These are supposed to be filtered out of this show. What the hell? Ah, Jesus. Thanks, pal.
Oh,
Appreciate
goodness
it.
gracious.
Good Lord,
Goodness
have
gracious.
mercy.
Oh, man, oh, man.
All right, let's get another question in.
Oh,
Let's go to Old Yank. Let's get back on track. Back on track here. All right, we go to Old Yank here. Tet McMillan, or as he prefers, T-Mac, or Emeka Ibuka.
Yeah, that's a great question. Cardinals defense was supposed to be improved this year. They invested a decent amount off-season wise from a pass rushing perspective, a few more secondary pieces. I think jury's out when you play the Saints week 1 as to if that actually ended up coming to fruition. I think the Tet McMillan overall draft pick, it looks like it's paying dividends right now for at least having an offensive player that is of value for the Panthers, of consequential value. Certainly Xavier Legette has not been that guy, given what they did the year before. So Tet McMillan's good, but I don't know how you can watch Emeka Ibuka and especially come Monday night against the Texans and say, I have to have him on my bench. Like, I don't know. The 2 touchdowns might not be there, but I do think there will be volume. Like the over-under is a little bit suspiciously low at 42.5, and I think that's a credit to what the Texans are very capable of doing defensively. But if you have Tristan Wirfs back, which is possible, I don't know if he ends up playing this week or not. I think I'm playing Emeka Ibuka and just kind of rolling with it. Maybe again to the point of just a hot hand, having the conversation earlier. I just don't know if I want to bench a guy that scored 2 touchdowns and looked so great in his rookie debut.
All right, fair enough. Let me pop this one up here. Here's Adam HW says, I have DJ Moore and GW5. Is that Garrett Wilson? Is that
Hell yeah, you know who that is, Lerch.
Abbreviations that people
GW.
throw out there. I was like, George Wendt the fifth? What are we talking about here? All right. And I have Kenneth Walker as my flex. So I traded Marvin Harrison Jr. for Devon Achane. Feel like that's a good deal. Give us your thoughts on that one, Joe.
Yeah, it's 2 players I don't like and didn't like entering the season. Devon Achane was somebody I was a little bit worried injury-prone wise. I also thought the Dolphins wouldn't use Devon Achane nearly as much, and if not for a junk time touchdown in a game that literally was out of reach it felt like the end of the first quarter, we'd be singing a different tune about Devon Achane fantasy-wise. But also, Marvin Harrison, I don't know. I didn't think he'd get a whole lot of volume. He ended up getting a decent amount of targets week 1, so that ended up being an incorrect call, at least for the moment. In this scenario, to protect from having Kenneth Walker be a crucial person I have to play, that is the right move for me, that I would move one of those receivers. Ideally, you'd rather have DJ Moore be that guy that you trade as opposed to Marvin Harrison, but you might not get that deal done otherwise. So I'm okay with getting Devon Achane and dealing from some of the depth at receiver that this person had.
And he does mention, by the way, he's got Barkley and Achane now as his running backs to complete the deal. So he's got a frontline running back. He's running Achane out there as a number 2. I would feel much more comfortable with him as my number 2, my number 1, especially with the state of the Dolphins these days. My goodness.
That's a good point. By the way, salute to Adam HW, who is in the United Kingdom. So appreciate. Nice. I have no idea what time it is over there, but thank you for the support.
Oh, no, that's Australia. I went the wrong
definitely
way.
Australia. We're not the United Kingdom, but we'll try to pretend.
Buddy.
That's probably it. Yeah, we'll try to pretend that didn't happen. All right, back to the comments. Oh, Badshaw. Yes. Speaking of the Dolphins, Jalen Waddle is questionable. Do I substitute him at all? If I do, then do I start Keenan Allen or Cooper Kupp?
Yeah, so not at all Cooper Kupp. I want nothing to do with Cooper Kupp. I think by week 7, we're going to have him dropped everywhere in fantasy lineups. Wow. That's fine. The Waddle or Keenan Allen part is really interesting. Because again, you watch what happened with Justin Herbert and company on Friday. Yeah. They were excellent, but I think in large part they were excellent because Keenan Allen was just right back to vintage Keenan Allen from a couple of years ago at the Chargers. And I think I'm playing Keenan Allen over Jalen Waddle, whether Waddle's healthy or not. I don't want anything to do with this Dolphins team. I know that they're slight favorites here, and you guys will be doing that a little bit later here today, talk about the picks we made. I struggled with that one a lot. I don't normally go back and forth on like I normally do my process starting Monday, but I'll make my picks Tuesday, and of course, text them Paul way too late on Friday. But like I don't go back and forth too often. I did with the Dolphins and Patriots, and I think I landed on the Dolphins winning, but I don't feel great about it. I would just rather play Keenan Allen and not deal with a really ultra bad vibes sort of feeling, which seems to be happening in Miami right now.
Yeah, fair enough. Let me throw a random question in here in between all our fan questions. So Xavier Worthy gets whacked, which is like an unbelievable play that now he's going to be out for some period of time. If you have any update on that, Joe, feel free to share. But what does that mean for the Chiefs passing game? Because Hollywood Brown ate in the moment as someone had to. So is he the guy? Is Travis Kelce going to get more action? Is there another Juju Smith-Schuster? What is it, 2016? I don't know. Like who's going to be the guy that starts eating here for Kansas City if Xavier Worthy is out for any significant period of time?
Yeah, and for our UK audience, whacked isn't like watching The Wire where a hitman came out for Xavier Worthy, although the way that Travis Kelce ran directly into him, you could have assumed maybe there was a hit out for Xavier Worthy, but whacked in terms of he just got smashed in the play. I mean, and the update being Xavier Worthy actually practiced yesterday. He has a dislocated shoulder. You can wear a brace and you can like function in real world. Like that's something that normally happens for a 160-pound receiver to go ahead and try to do that. I don't know how many cortisone shots you'd really need to have for me to feel good about it, but it would be probably too many that is legally allowed to be done. So I'm assuming either Xavier Worthy does not play, or if he does, it's just run straight 20 snaps throughout the game and be a decoy. I don't know how you go over the back of your shoulder and catch it like that or whatever it is on the broadcast and not have your shoulder be affected. And also with how slight he is, even one big hit, I don't know. It just feels like too risky to do week 2 into the season. So I'm assuming Worthy won't play, or if he does, it's a complete distraction for that. So with that part of the answer, I would love to have Hollywood Brown. I think he's not going to get 16 targets, but I don't know if there's anyone right now. Rasheed Rice is still suspended. Juju Smith-Schuster still has no idea that he can't play football anymore. Like Tyquan Thornton isn't that sort of player at this point in his career. Like a volume pass catcher is what the Chiefs need offensively. And if Travis Kelce can't be that, which I just think right now in his stage of his career he can't, then Hollywood Brown, who was that in college, who was that for the Ravens, who was that for the Cardinals, will just sort of operate in that same capacity until he gets hurt, which has happened often in his career. So I would play Hollywood Brown in most situations, and I think he will get somewhere in the range of 6 to 8 targets almost at a minimum right now until Rasheed Rice comes back.
Well, Joe,
I was just throwing this in a quick comment for time zone knowledge 101. It's almost 4 o'clock over there in the United Kingdom. So Adam HW, appreciate you, pal.
No tea and crumpets at this time of day.
I don't think
it's fish and chips probably at this time of day.
Okay.
All right. Matt in Auburn throws out this one, Boy Green. You mentioned in the Washington situation earlier. So how soon will Chris Rodriguez Jr. be number 1 in Washington? Matt seems to think that that's the way this thing's going to land. What do you think?
I think Matt's just trying to get me in trouble here. I look at the meme like that's bait right here. He points at that's bait. I think I'm going to try to like clickbaited here because I understand that I like Chris Rodriguez a lot and I liked him a lot more than Ja'Cory Cross-Garrett entering the season. But you don't go have back-to-back healthy inactives with Chris Rodriguez and then say he'll completely supplant Ja'Cory Cross-Garrett immediately. So there's going to be a point in time, I truly believe this is not just me trying to play both sides of the fence. I think there's a point in time where Chris Rodriguez is going to be discussed as a valuable part of that Commanders offense and as a valuable in deeper leagues fantasy player. It won't be anytime soon, though. I think the coaching staff needs to see it in practical purposes before we can feel more comfortable making that assumption. So at the moment, it's Ja'Cory Cross-Garrett that probably benefits the most of the Austin Eckler injury, but I do think Chris Rodriguez will end up being elevated to a certain role as the season progresses.
Joe, I'll call this one kind of a pet peeve, and Boy Green and I were talking about it a little earlier on one of our live shows this week. This thing that happens in fantasy, and it's become a regular thing now, and I don't know what's to be done. I mean, the NFL has its injury policy, and we have our rules in our leagues that we have to play by, but it's players who clearly are hurt. All right. Xavier Worthy might be one of them, although, like you said, I don't know. The Chiefs are talking about running him out this week. They're out of their minds. I mean, the guy separated his shoulder. Let's give him a couple of weeks off here and let him heal, and then we'll get him back at the lineup. He's on one of my teams. I want him out there as badly as anyone. But my goodness, they put him on the questionable line, and then you can't do anything with your roster. You can't move him to the IR. You know, you hate to drop a player when you're right now. I think at this time of year, especially if you've come off a good draft, like I feel I have, I don't want to throw speculative players out there until I see how they pan out over the course of 4 or 5 weeks. You know, I'm not a quick to drop guys unless I clearly see this guy's done for.
Like Kadarius Toney, that 1 year you drafted him and cut him after the first week.
Are you ever going to stop talking about Kadarius Toney? Okay.
Well, if you would have never drafted him, I would have never had to talk about it.
All right. Okay. Anyway, is there anything to be done about this, Joe? I mean, you know, we get these guys that sit on the queue line and we know they're not going to play. And then finally on, Sunday morning or Saturday, they finally move them to out. And now all the waiver wire guys are gone and you're picking from scraps. It stinks.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking selfishly from this perspective, given that you could do some roster stuff if you had known, or if we acknowledge what we assumed to be the case for Xavier Worthy. But I think exactly what occurred yesterday, where he is practicing and there's discussion about him playing, is the one reason why we can't just make these automatic jump to conclusions. It's different for a guy like Austin Eckler, who, I think we all pretty consequentially saw his reaction afterwards. Like, that one felt obvious. But even like in my example, I drafted Chris Godwin in a lot of places, knowing he probably wasn't playing for the first month. I value Chris Godwin enough on my roster to go ahead and say I will deal with the headaches that come with this, knowing that I'm going to have some depth later on at the cost of probably 2 or 3 rounds where he should be going if he was healthy. And I think that's the answer to this in most places. Now, from a practical perspective, teams won't release that out stuff because there might be turnarounds, but more importantly, when you place people on IR and then the ability to activate them or choose to do with the practice squad stuff, there's some real life roster management things, especially as the season progresses, that are the catalyst for these annoying or frustrating scenarios. So whether it be Xavier Worthy for you, Chris Godwin for me, Juwan Jennings was one of those two. And I think Juwan Jennings is
another guy, that a lot of people have rosters. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, I was just we can talk about the other play, but like the Juwan Jennings part of things, I thought he was not going to play week 1. Turns out he did. Of course, he gets injured right away. Arguably probably shouldn't have, but that was another example where I was equally, I know how the game is played, so I wasn't frustrated by it. I was more like, why did I put myself in this spot? It was much more of a blame Joe Bartel thing as opposed to the NFL. How dare you? But I was like, oh, this is so annoying. Oh, actually, he's going to end up playing, so maybe it's okay. That happens a decent amount early enough in the season where I never really chastise teams for making my life a bit more complicated.
Well, so Lerch, I believe if I was to translate that, we probably need someone on the show. Suck it up, pal, is what Joe Bartel just said to your question.
I just think it's a lousy policy sometimes when a guy. Again, we have some guys that are, in the gray area, but there have been times where it's black and white, and you just have to sit on it until the end of the week, until finally they declare a guy out, and then you have to go get a guy that you're probably not going to play. And I like to try and get in the waiver wire spirit of things and go get a guy that I possibly could start. That possibly
I would say this:
stay on my roster.
If I was pulling out the violins for either of you,
be quiet.
No. I'm in all seriousness, though, right? You just complain about Xavier Worthy, and you're like, he's not going to play. Why not just do something so I can figure it out? Or Joe, who has Chris Godwin, them dragging the doubtful and questionable stuff, which is all the way at the precipice of being out, but not out, and Joe can't do anything. I feel a little bit worse for Joe, who's getting dragged into Monday night game, so he has to hold it on the edge to do anything more than the Xavier Worthy situation, where he's actually practicing.
Yeah. I want to interject. I want to interject here because Jim said something that I think should irritate you, Paul. He's like, I had a really good draft, or I think I had a really good draft. So it's funny that Jim could say that here with all this confidence. And Paul, I look at your bench and be like, we could cycle through everyone on your bench and find something else different. So what does it feel like, Paul, to leave this draft and see what happens week 1, get the win, but think, I probably could cycle through some things where Jim doesn't want to even drop one player with how great he drafted.
Well, there's a difference between saying how great you drafted and the results of the results. So, for me, I'm going to let my play on the field do the talking for my team as the key general manager of this group and a 2-time champ, of course, at least in the Champs League. Actually, if you look at all the trophies, I'm a multiple-time champ across all the leagues. I think it's 4 or 5.
Because you've played in all of them the most. I mean, that's just by sheer numbers, sir.
Yes, right,
I'm not sure what that math means. All I can tell you is I got so many championships, and it's hard to count them all.
Yeah, who was the first 2-time champ? Who was that again? Who was that guy that was the first 2-time champ?
Again,
who's the guy that won the very first year that we put the league together?
But the league wasn't even called the league at that point, so it sort of shouldn't even count. But that's neither here nor there.
He has nothing on me, Joe, but he wants it. If he gets a third one, I'm in big trouble, man. This is going to be a weekly beatdown for me, so I can't let it happen. I got to make something happen this season. All right, how you feeling about this week in general, Joe? Excited coming out of week 1, and what does week 2 feel like from a fantasy football perspective?
Yeah, I'm actually really excited. It's a little bit frustrating after Thursday, but I thought, and I mentioned this in my waiver wire article, you can find it on JB Fantasy Sports. I saw somebody in the chat literally picked up one of the players we talked about right away, which is good. This is meant to be an educational thing. I could chastise both these handsome individuals that we're talking to every Friday, and we have a good time bantering, but what we want to do for you, the listener and person watching along, is to make you better at fantasy, to not let Boy Green just go ahead and win 55 championships in a row because he plays in 55 leagues. It's a way to have people be competitive. So getting the Juwan Johnsons over the Pat Fryermuths, that's what we're trying to do here. I was happy overall that the waiver wire article I wrote about was far more oriented to players that surprised us as opposed to injury-related situations. Now, outside of the Niners with Brock Purdy and then Juwan Jennings and George Kittle, it felt like for the most part there weren't consequential injuries. Now, Thursday kicks things off with Jaden Reed and Austin Eckler, and I think that it sometimes always just feels like it spells doom for the rest of the league, but I'm actually really excited to watch a lot of interesting football. I think the bottom teams of the NFL weren't as bad as I was thinking they would be, and that will just make the overall competition on a week-to-week basis better. Even though if I think the elite teams are still at the elite and precipice of the NFL, so I loved week 1. And I'm actually just as equally excited to see week 2, which isn't always the case in my 10 years at RotoWire. So I'm looking forward to the slate.
Is there, just last question here, should there be any panic in fantasy league players? Like, for instance, I'll bring a guy up because you just mentioned the Packers. I was thinking of that game last night. Matthew Golden, who's really gotten off to a rough start, was only targeted twice last night. Did he even get I don't think he even got a catch in the game.
No, he might have had a catch, but he had that big bomb for a touchdown that was right there, and he missed
underthrown.
it.
It was underthrown, unfortunately. I might have got a touchdown and a long throw, but he didn't. So, you get a guy like that. A lot of people invested some draft capital in a guy like that. Do you quit on guys like that, or you just got to stay the course with your guys?
Yeah, that's tough. I mean, the Packers are a unique situation with the way that they spread the football around. You mentioned the underthrown touchdown, and then there was a 50-yard throw that was overthrown by a yard. It was the two targets. Matthew Golden had like a 20-yard run. I think there's going to be things that they do more schematically, and also as the replacement to Jaden Reed, I think that's what Matthew Golden is going to be kind of set to do. That's not to say he just takes on the automatic volume, but the plays that you'd scheme for Jaden Reed, I think conventionally can be schemed for Matthew Golden. In like 10-team leagues and certainly 8-team leagues, yeah, you should be dropping him. I mean, like, it's okay to be reactionary to situations that we needed some answers to and got them within 2 weeks. But for most of those top guys, and let's just say around 4 or 5, 6 like picks, I'm trying not to change my immediate thought process. And again, if the idea was my biggest takeaway from week 1 was the really bad teams aren't actually that bad, then there really shouldn't be much reactionary from that from a week-to-week perspective, at least right now. We can adjust as we get more information, but I try not to overreact from a fantasy perspective for a lot of that stuff. So outside of Kenneth Walker, and again, I have him on my roster right now, I'm waving the white flag on that one. Outside of Kenneth Walker, there really shouldn't be situations that happen within your first 5 picks that are overwhelmingly negative that you have to be reactionary to. I just don't think that's how it should be week 1.
All right. Well, good luck this weekend, Joe. Not really.
Yes.
I want to destroy you.
Oh, yeah. You
Go ahead. You want to get a plug to RotoWire? Go ahead, Boy Green.
Yeah, that's exactly what I wanted to do. Joe, please give a plug for all the wonderful things you do. We love that you take the time every week to talk to us and, of course, the great fans all over the place on the Manchild Show Boy Green digital Facebook page, the Manchild Show Boy Green digital YouTube page, and my YouTube page as well. It's cool that we get to interact in this way. So please give a massive plug here to RotoWire, your company of choice.
Yeah, you can follow me on JB Fantasy Sports on Twitter. I have the waiver wire article get posted Monday, but I update throughout the week. So I think we have something like 25 names now at this point after the final update on Thursday. So go ahead and check that out. I try to go over like FAB, which isn't something we discuss in most of these leagues, but waiver wire priority is kind of in the same order of how much money you'd be spending on these players if you were in a FAB league. And FAB is free agent budget. If you were to like have $100 of fake money, how much do you want the Marquise Brown, so the Hollywood Brown or the Harold Fans? That's kind of dictating that. So you can look at the waiver wire article on JB Fantasy Sports. I pick every game against the spread and every total as well. That normally gets posted Wednesday. You guys will be discussing that as well too. And then I've been partnering with Chalkboard throughout the year, which Paul had actually commented on. Thank you for talking to me about that on Twitter. That's great. But I actually do like some like different prop bet looks on the Thursday game, the Sunday slate, and the Monday slate as well. We're doing that throughout the year. And of course, the SiriusXM shows Friday, which I'll be doing here in just about an hour. And then, of course, Saturday from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern.
All right. Thank you, Joe. Always good to check in with you. We'll talk to you again next Friday. It might be Boy Green solo next Friday. Manchild's wife wants to get away one last weekend before the summer actually ends, and it looks like I might be on the road next Friday. So I don't know if I'll be able to do our bit. I'll try and see if I can get into football picks. We got to do those on every Friday.
I think it's awfully convenient if you take an L from me that you'll be gone. I wonder if the missus is just a cover story here. But that's
I might pull over on the side of the road if I get a W. If I get the L.
I see.
Mysteriously missing from our little discussion.
And Lerch, don't worry.
I'm telling you this in advance because it's not because of that. All right.
Sure. But if you have any fantasy questions for Joe next week, I'll definitely make sure those make the cut. So great. We'll make sure we make that happen. Joe, it's always fun.
Thank you, Joseph.
Thanks, buddy.
See you guys.
There he is. Joe Bartel giving us some love, RotoWire.com. He does it every single week with us. We talk all things fantasy football with Joe. Final thoughts, Boy Green, if you have any. I know we're going to be sending out our NFL picks, all our picks against the spread. Matt Lombardo will be joining us for that, and we will drop that a little bit later this afternoon. But final thoughts on fantasy football. How you feeling going into this weekend?
Yes. I'll be honest. The cool thing is that I'm in a bunch of leagues, 6 or 7 leagues maybe this year, and I pick from a lot of different draft spots. Now, sometimes you just like certain players, so you sort of get the same players at every team. the thing I'm very proud of this year is picking in all these different spots. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to employ a lot of different strategies in these different leagues. So I've got wildly different. There's a few players that are the same, but there's a lot of the majority of the roster, 90% of the roster is wildly different on a team-to-team basis. So when you win a lot in week one and you had all these crazy different combinations, it's sort of, rewarding in a certain way. So that's been a lot of fun. So, hey, I try to win as many of these as possible, which I love. And shout out to our NFL picks against the spread. I'll plug it on that show as well, but I'll plug it here. If you guys want to compete against us, it's me, it's Manchild, it's Joe Bartel, who you just saw on screen, Dalton Wasserman from earlier this week from PFF. You will see NFL insider Matt Lombardo on our pick show. Internet, of course. If you think you can pick games better than all of us, then prove it. You guys can go to our Instagram story today, the Manchild Show with Boy Green Digital, and pick every game against the spread on our Instagram profile. That'll be up here shortly, and you guys will be able to do that every Friday for 24 hours and submit your picks, and we'll keep track of it as we'll reveal coming up on our NFL pick show.
Yeah, very cool stuff. So definitely get involved in that. And last week, Boy Green, now Yahoo, one of the new things that Yahoo is doing this year in its fantasy portals, and everybody that has a Yahoo league is going to see this, is they do a matchup of the week. All right.
Oh, I didn't see this.
You didn't see it? Yeah, it's in the app every week, and they kind of
Okay.
highlight your matchup. Go look at ours. Last week, Boy Green, it was you and Choptimus Prime
Nice.
with a matchup of the week. I was like, oh, Boy Green got matchup of the week in week number 1. Well, guess what matchup of the week in week 2 is?
Oh, you guys, I guess.
It's me and Bartel. Me and Bartel are matchup of the week. So we get kind of a little fancy little, circle around our matchup, and it's the matchup.
Oh, so it's the
week.
primetime game. Nice. Okay.
All right.
All
So
right.
I'm kind of lying in the woods a little bit, right? Lying in the weeds a little bit right now with Joe Bartel. I don't currently have a defense in the defensive spot, so my points look lower. So it looks like he's got a 70% chance to win. I'm gonna just drop it on him over this weekend.
Okay.
I got to get that good running back play, Boy Green. My receivers are not too stout, especially with the injury to Xavier Worthy. So it's going to come down to my big boys here. They're going to have to get it done. Josh Jacobs did okay last night, but I need somebody to really go off, man, and get after Bartel, man. He's got a pretty solid team, so it's going to be a rough one this week.
All right. Well, good luck, pal. And apparently I won't see you next week, so I won't be able to be a shoulder to cry on or you celebrating. So great.
It's not done yet, but it's looking that way.
All right. Well,
got to get my act together this week, try and see where we're going and what we're doing. All right. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate you tuning in, and we will see you again real soon. Take care, everybody. Have a great weekend.